Okay, I'm sitting here with Adrian Coysh, and I'm not going to give away too much because you're much better off hearing it from him. But, you know, along with the theme of the other videos that I'm putting out this week, we're thinking about the new environment that we're taking our businesses into. And Adrian has put a lot of work into diversity with a special emphasis on disability. And I just wanted to get Adrian speaking to you about the work that he's doing and about the difference that he's making and how it could actually, you could take it in your stride for your own advantage in your business as well. So Adrian, thank you for agreeing to sit with me on this video. Can you please talk to us about what you're up to? You've got a number of projects that you're working on.
Yeah, hi Gemma, it's my pleasure to join you. Yeah, so I guess it was through personal reasons that I got involved with this project. I've got 4 children and 3 of those are going blind. It's something that happened in their teens, so up till then I thought I was the normal parent with sort of healthy children, and then you know, the world sort of got turned on its head. At that time, I was recruiting accountants for my sins, and so I decided to, I guess, use my skills in that space to try and help people with disabilities get into more meaningful employment. And I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was when my daughter, who was going into university, was told not to pursue a sciences degree. It was going to be too hard for her, and that there was no jobs for research scientists at the end of it, which sort of broke her heart. It wasn't until we found out that there was actually a PhD student who was blind at the same university that she ultimately attended, that we sort of said, no, come on Alex, you know, go for it. You're an academic, you want to do this, let's make it work. Anyway, so Alex was told, you know, not to go to university, go and be a masseuse, or use your hands instead, type of thing. And as a parent, that, you know, that was a red rag to a bull, and that's what sort of, I guess, put me on this path to help people with disabilities fulfill their you know, their true potential. So now I've been working on this project, I guess, for 5 years at great financial cost, I'll add. I've sort of gone from just dabbling with disability employment, trying to get businesses to have a fresh look at what they're doing, through to now I almost I'm 100% focused on making this happen. There's a number of initiatives that I'm currently working on. The first one being to help promote the accessibility tick, which was only developed just over a year ago. It was something that got initially funded by the Blind Foundation, just helping businesses become a lot more aware of what they're doing with disability, and particularly employment. That's now actually been spun off, and it's going to be an employer-led initiative, and that was something that was being rolled out and developed at the time that COVID hit us all. So I'm not quite sure where exactly that's going to end up now, but I'd like to think that initiative will keep on being promoted by businesses. Something like 23 members signed up now. And I've agreed to do some training for them, which it's going to be workshop-based training. So members get that as part of their I guess the membership fee. So I'm developing training to help businesses employ and retain disabled people, feeling a lot more confident about the process. So working with line managers or hiring managers and recruitment teams. My background is recruitment, so I know exactly how the process works. Just teaching them things like basic etiquette and types of disability, how people with disabilities can do their jobs. So that training was just in the process of being rolled out. It is available now. And the second thing I was doing was working with some of those employers to create some e-learning, so that rather than having a 3-hour workshop, which is obviously limited to the people in the room, yes, we can do you know, online workshops, but I'm also developing 35-40-minute e-learning programs, which will then allow people to have a condensed version of that training, and then of course reach a whole lot more people, particularly the corporates who've got people scattered right throughout New Zealand. It's easy to just go online and have a wee look at a 40-minute online training rather than sitting through a half-day workshop. So I was just actively seeking businesses to help sponsor the development of that training when COVID hit us. So I'm still trying to do that, and I'm open to any suggestions from individuals or businesses who want to support me. So the second thing I'm doing is part of the process of promoting the jobs to the disabled workforce is I'm working as a partner with Job Café. It's an online job promotion website, and so I'm the Auckland partner for that, and that enables us to reach two main target areas: Māori and Pacifica through the Kumravine, and disabled people through Possibility is the name of that particular initiative. And the third thing I'm working on, which was also launched around COVID time, was I've developed a product called Drink My Coffee, and it's aimed at people who have disabilities who either want to or maybe are only limited to being self-employed, maybe never get a job in a corporate or a larger organization, but they do want the independence, and they can actually be self-employed. So I've arranged for a coffee importer to sell to me. We get coffee roasted, bagged, and then we ship it around the country, and we're looking for distributors right around New Zealand who can sell this coffee to their networks, and they retain a commission for doing that, and that becomes their income rather than being on a benefit. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Good, and those are three fantastic initiatives, and there's a really great video that has been put together particularly for the Drink My Coffee piece, which I'll leave a link for in the comments so that you can learn more about what that project is about. And I'm the inspiration coming through your own, you're watching people very, very dear to you, navigating the world with the change in the eyesight, always having been fully visually able, and then watching that deteriorate and having to learn and relearn the new way of doing things. And it must have been extremely challenging for you, not being able to switch places.
Oh, it's really difficult watching your children slowly go blind, but seeing the courage that they've put into just getting on with life makes me feel that I guess while it's not nice as a parent, I've got sort of the easy job, as it were. They've got the hard part, and seeing them just trying to navigate each day, starting to use a cane and that sort of thing is actually quite hard as a parent. And it's the projects I'm working on have really given me sanity to keep on going, really, as well as the motivation. And I just see that there's this huge group of people. One in four Kiwis has a form of disability in some way, and just seeing them sidelined is just tragic. And by the time you've added in the family and friends of those disabled people, you're probably talking about 50% of the population is touched. And yet, even with that large group of people, businesses or employers, because it includes government as well, we're just sidelining a huge amount of people, and it's just a tragic waste. There's an initiative that's happening worldwide. It's called the Valuable 500. And this initiative is looking to get 500 of the world's largest corporates to actually acknowledge that this is a huge issue. I think we're up to 261 organizations have now joined the initiative. It started in Davos in Switzerland, and to my knowledge, the ANZ Bank is the only Australasian organization that's signed up for it. So I'm trying to promote that initiative as well, because I think once there's a worldwide movement that is growing, I think that our own initiatives in New Zealand will also gather momentum. the fantastic accessibility Tick program is only a year old, and I'm totally supporting the growth of that.
We were talking offline about the momentum that you were gaining with the projects that you were working on just before COVID, and feeling uncertain about whether that steam is going to continue in the new environment. But there are a number of advantages that we were discussing that can be implemented or taken on in the new environment, such as the working from home.
Yeah, so I've worked from home for a long time and I love it. Maybe I'm a bit of a solitary person in some ways, but we've all had to learn how to do it. And I think people who have learned how to use Zoom for the first time can now look at it and say, oh, actually, there's no reason I've got to crawl through traffic to be at a meeting at 8:30 when I can actually do it quite remotely. And especially where a lot of meetings are one-on-one with your immediate manager. Do you really have to share a coffee across a desk, or can you do it by a computer? But what it has actually taught us is that for a lot of disabled people, just getting to work is actually the hardest part of their day's work. Just the physical act of getting there. So now that we've all experienced working from home, maybe we can have an understanding that we can embrace a whole lot of people who, for whatever reason, would prefer to work at home, and that includes people who have mental health issues. They might be having a bad day and just quietly share with the boss that they'd like to work from home that day, but they can still put it together for a 1 hour meeting and then quietly work by themselves, rather than having to go in and suffer a whole day of I guess internal angst. Either they could have anxiety or depression or whatever. Means that they can actually facilitate a day's work from home quite safely in their own time. Go for a walk when they need to. So there's a whole lot of positives that are going to come out of this new way of doing business, basically. So I guess for me, it's a positive. Initially, when COVID hit, I thought that the natural result was going to be a lot higher level of unemployment, and unfortunately, that is going to be the case. You've only got to look at aviation and tourism to know that there's going to be a lot of people now looking for work. So I thought, with this increased, I guess, competition for jobs, one of the positives of the accessibility tick was saying to businesses, you're all saying that you have shortages of people. Look outside the square, hire people with disabilities. Think differently. All of a sudden, well, you've actually got a glut of people who are available for work now. Maybe we don't have to try so hard and get those disabled people on board. So that could be a negative. Initially, that was my thought, but now that we know that we can work remotely, that's how a lot of people with disabilities can work and want to work anyway. Let's embrace it.
Yeah, and we were also discussing another collaboration that I've done. I haven't put the video online yet, but discussing the economic advantages of having a more diverse workforce. The comment was, if you look around and everybody looks like you, well, how comforting does that feel? But if you don't understand your target audience by having a diverse series of inputs inside your organisation, then you can't really maximise reaching and servicing that customer, whether that's, we talked about the pink dollar, the yellow dollar, and really being able to maximise the spending power of huge groups of people. You said that 1 in 4 New Zealanders has a disability, whether it's invisible or not. But when those people are represented within organisations and are understood, then the way that they're spoken to, whether it's marketing activities and whatnot, they understand that you understand them.
Yes. So you mentioned the pink dollar, which is the call it the gay dollar or whatever you want. The yellow dollar or the accessibility dollar is actually a very powerful source of income as well. If you think of 1 in 4 Kiwis having disability, add their families, that's 50%. Those are your consumers. Now they've got a discretionary dollar, and if they see that Coke versus Pepsi. And we see that Pepsi is going out of their way to help people with disabilities, and you think, well, I think I'll try their juice rather than the Coke. Just a couple of figures. There's 1.3 billion people around the world with disabilities, and it's estimated that the yellow dollar, the accessibility dollar, is worth $8 trillion worldwide. So
Wow.
that's I've just lifted that stat off the Valuable 500 website. That's the size of the market out there. So these 500 businesses can look at that $8 trillion, going, we can have a slice of that. If you think about it a bit closer to home, you know, there's a whole lot of consumers in New Zealand who are in the same boat. So if you seem to be working, helping people with disabilities, that discretionary dollar might find its way into your bank account. And of course, with the way that the economy is potentially heading right now, why would you ignore that?
So aside from the fact that it's the right thing to do, and we are giving people who are finding it hard to find work, we're giving them the chance to show their true potential by employing and empowering them and getting the best out of them. There's also economic advantages in business to having a truly diverse team. It makes perfect sense that when you're recruiting, you are recruiting as diversely and inclusively as you can for the richness of your organisation and for the richness of your client reach.
Yeah, well, it's all about thinking differently as well. And people with disabilities have had to, through necessity, think differently. They've had to problem solve a lot of their life just to physically do stuff. And then you have the neurodiverse sector. So most people think of that as autism, is probably the largest group. But there's quite a large number of people who basically just think completely differently, because that's their framework. So some industries have cottoned on to the fact that autistic people quite often have a natural bent for IT. Their ability to focus on single problems is amazing. Quite often they have obsessions with various things, and their ability to do stuff maybe all day long, which would drive a lot of people nuts. They not only can do it, they thrive on it. So one of the traits, for example, is they hate disorder. So if you have disorder in your organisation, hey, get a neurodiverse person onto it. I'll soon sort it out for you. So the whole thinking differently thing can actually be an asset rather than a liability. All you've got to do is say, okay, do you have some special needs that we have to make an accommodation with? And that's one of the things that we do in our training is talk about accommodations that you can make. And quite often those accommodations are actually quite minor. For example, one of the accessibility Tick members, Sudima Hotels, hired this person, and they came on board, and after 2 months, someone from the Blind Foundation came and just spoke about what it's like to live with blindness. And this new staff member put a hand up and said, actually, I'm totally blind in one eye, and talked about that. And after that workshop, the HR manager basically said, oh, we didn't know that you had this disability. Obviously it doesn't affect you, or else we would have noticed it by now, but is there anything that we can do to help? So yes, well, actually, where I sit in, at certain times of the day, the glare is actually quite bad. I've only got one eye, so it can affect me more. So what would help would be a standing desk. And so that was provided and problem solved. But up till then, she didn't have, I guess, the courage, because when you start a new job, you don't go and start demanding stuff. You also, if you're sort of introverted, you might not feel the need to share that with anyone. And bear in mind, 50% of all disabilities is actually invisible. So if you see that your employer not only embraces helping people with disabilities, by perhaps sign out for the Tick. That'd be a nice thing. But if they're seen to be helping people with disabilities, just the same way as they reach out and help people from the LGBTQ sector, if you see that your business is actually talking the talk, you're actually more likely to share the fact that, by the way, I do have a disability, and from time to time it does affect me, and then they can make accommodations to make your life easier and job better. So an offshoot of being seen to be a positive business with regard to disability is you're getting your people you're allowing your people to bring their whole self to work. That's quite a common phrase. We want you to bring your whole self to the table. Who are you, and how can we make your life with us more bearable, but also more user friendly? Do you need anything particular to make your job easier to do? Sorry, I'm passionate about the subject. So,
and that's why I wanted to capture you, because when you speak about it, I feel inspired too, and I know that by putting this video together, you're going to reach people, and I think it's a very important topic, and it's so important at this moment where business owners are getting ready to go back to work and they're having to take a look at themselves, and I love it. I think it's really fantastic. The passion and the inspiration that you have is going to rub off. So I thank you very much for collaborating with me.
That's really great. The larger the audience, the better. I'll be honest, I don't like public speaking a lot of times, and so it's been, I guess, difficult for me to be that person. But I just get inspiration from my own children and see what they've got to do to make their lives work. So for me, it's just it's a small thing I'll take on the chin.